from the city. The Baronessa chewed at her lip, casting a glance for the first time at the tiny window. Yeva had secured the spot by being the most junior of the women in the Baroness's circle, and thus taking the coldest seat. But she preferred it to any other, with its view of the forest beyond the edge of the Baron's property. Yeva felt impatience strum at her insides. She hated the indecisiveness of people in town, how they waited to make decisions, took weeks or months or years to settle, until the decisions were made for them by inaction. "Oh, very well," the Baronessa said finally, waving her hand in a sad, dismissive gesture. "If the snow has not marooned us all by morning, will you ladies return tomorrow afternoon? If it snows, my husband will not be hunting, but he will be so cross that I would rather have company when facing him." Yeva felt a sluggish stirring of dislike in her stomach. Only a nobleman, whose idea of hunting involved sitting high on a spotlessly decorated stallion while half-starved hounds did all the work, would be turned away by snow. "The snow is a canvas," her father would say, "upon which the beast paints his past, his home, his intentions, his future. Learn to see the picture and you will know him as you know yourself." "Of course we will come back tomorrow," Galina replied, saving Yeva from having to formulate an answer. "Thank you, my lady." The girls all stood, tucking their sewing away, preparing to leave until the next afternoon. Yeva hurried to follow suit, shoving her embroidery into its basket. She'd learned in her first few days that the Baronessa often snared the last of the girls to leave, drawing them into conversations that could last for hours. It wasn't so much that Yeva disliked speaking with the Baronessa, but rather that she'd prefer to reach home by nightfall. And before the storm, if one was coming. They left the Baronessa mournfully describing her husband's hunting exploits to the hapless sisters from the city, and rushed to bundle up in their winter gear. "Thank you," whispered Galina as she caught up to Yeva, jogging her elbow a little and casting her a smile. Yeva shook her head, the corners of her mouth twitching. "I was only thinking of our safety, traveling in the weather." One of the Baroness's ladies, overhearing Yeva, laughed. "We know exactly what you were thinking of, Yeva. What time is Solmir meeting you?" Yeva's smile vanished. "Solmir?" she echoed. "Don't think we haven't seen how much attention he pays you at the Baroness's dinners." The lady raised an eyebrow. She was one of the older members of the Baroness's inner circle, soon to be engaged to a man in the Baron's hunting party. "Don't give me that look. That is the point of all this, no? For us to see and be seen?" Yeva looked over at Galina, who was watching quietly as she laced the ties on her cloak. Finding no answer there, Yeva could only shrug in response. Galina fell into step beside Yeva, and they walked in silence through the high doors of the house and onto the street. Galina was the second newest addition to the Baroness's collection, and somewhat more understanding of Yeva's peculiarities. She had never once blanched at the accidental mention of weaponry. "Was it true?" Yeva broke the quiet as they passed the church. "Was what true?" Galina looked up, brown eyes blank. "What they said about Solmir." Yeva glanced behind them, checking that no one was near enough to hear. She felt her cheeks warming despite the cold. "About his attention to me." Galina smiled. The expression was always sudden and unexpected on her small, solemn face. She was a relatively plain girl, but her smile was beautiful. "Yeva, you silly thing, you can't say you haven't noticed. They tease you only because they feel certain there is an understanding between you." Yeva stopped short, abruptly enough that slush sprayed up onto the hem of her skirts. "An understanding?" She had tied her cloak too tightly. Her breathing felt labored, uncertain. "I'm sorry to be the one to tell you," said Galina, dimming her smile with clear effort. Her expression was still brimming with amusement. "See you tomorrow," she added, before turning at the corner to make her way toward her own father's house, in the opposite direction. Yeva stood stirring the slush with the toe of her boot.